Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webcast of Getting Started with Thinkorswim. I'm happy that you've joined me here today, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. How many of you have visited a city before and you didn't know where you were going? You were feeling a little bit lost? Wouldn't it have been nice to have a local guide be there with you, showing you the different things of that city? Well, things can seem that way on Thinkorswim sometimes, especially those of you that are newer to the platform. And so today I'm going to be your guide as far as searching and scans go. And I'm going to have a scan for everybody. If you're an investor, I've got a scan for you. If you're a trader, I've got a scan for you. And if you're an options trader, I have a scan for you as well. So that's where we are going to focus with our time here today. And so by the time you're done, you're going to hopefully feel a little bit more comfortable using the scan tab. Now, I am joined in the chat by my good friend, Ben Watson. Ben and I have both been using the Thinkorswim platform for many, many years. And I quite enjoy it. I think Ben does as well. As you have questions, go ahead, chat those in. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I said Ben, I think it's actually Brent. Sorry, Brent, to call you Ben. Brent, he's been using the Thinkorswim platform like I have for, I don't know, 15 plus years, maybe getting close to 20, not sure exactly. In any case, as you have questions, type those in. We'll keep our eye on the chat to help you get those questions answered. If you're listening to this on the recording, I know lots of you do, and you have your questions, you type them into the comment section on YouTube, and I go back and review those throughout the week so you can get your questions answered as well. All right. I do hope you're following us both on X. I'm Connie Hill CS. Brent is Brent Moores CS. We'll post educational content out there, things that we think you might find interesting, we will post about. So follow us along. It's free. It's easy to do. All right. Let's go through our disclosures and we will get started with our agenda here today. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. We'll be using the Paper Money software application. This is the desktop version that you download to your computer. It's the most robust version of Thinkorswim. And that's what we'll be using here today. There are some variances between what the paper does and what a live account does with your software. So as those might be applicable in some cases, I'll point those out to you here today. There is probability analysis, are theoretical in nature and never guaranteed. And we'll be talking about probabilities here a little bit today. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. What we discuss is for educational and informational purposes. Don't consider it a recommendation of any sort. All right. Today I said I'm going to have something for everybody. I'm going to have a scan for somebody that's more investor oriented, a scan for those that are maybe a little bit more technically oriented, and we're going to do some things on Scan Hacker that might help you out, those of you that are option traders. Okay, let's head over. We are going to waste no time, and we are going to get started with Thinkorswim. Now, I am using the white background here today. Some of you find that it is a little bit easier to see, so I switched some things around, and we will use the white background here today. All right, we're going to start out fresh here on the Scan tab. And first, we're going to spend some time here on Stock Hacker. And I would say most of your needs can be met with Stock Hacker in terms of what you might be looking for. Okay, so how many of you might be interested in companies that have some money, some that are making a return? They seem maybe like they might be a little bit stable there for us. Well, we are going to focus first on what I call my cash-rich companies. All right. Now, when you come into Spread Hacker here, this is the default look. It'll bring it up. It'll show you 3 criteria found within what's called the stock filter. And we can change whatever it is there that we might want to use. So we are going to change this. And first of all, let's talk about prices of stock. So I'm going to change here on this stock filter. I'm going to change this to, I like to use the last price for our prices of stocks. You may have a different threshold. I'm going to put in 40 for this initial scan. If you are accepting of stocks with lower price than that, maybe you're a $20 person or a $10 person, whatever you are, go ahead and put in what your minimum threshold is. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a couple of fundamental filters. So we're going to come over here to the right side, and where we find these additional filters are over here where it says plus add filter. Okay, we're just going to select on it. We're going to see some choices here. We're going to choose two fundamental filters here. And in the meantime, we don't need these two remaining stock filters here, so we're going to get rid of them. We are interested in volume, but this volume filter under stock will give us the current volume today. I want this scan that we're going to use here to be able to be used at any time during the day and not just be dependent on being a little bit later in the day and having some significant volume here. Okay, since this is today's volume, so we are going to get rid of that filter and then that stock filter. Then we're going to put in some information here that deal with the fundamentals of a company. So on this one, we are going to put initially here something that's called a current ratio. And really, a current ratio measures a company's ability to pay its short-term obligations with its cash and cash-like assets, okay? And so we are going to do it based on an annual, and we're just going to use the current year. You could use something previous if you wanted to, but we're just going to do the current year. And we're going to put a current ratio here, minimum of 1, okay? The bigger the number, the better, but the smaller the number there, the less desirable it might be. That they only say if we put in, say, 0.1, that there's only, 10% could only be covered of their current obligations. But we'd like to see 100% covered, so that's where that 1 ratio comes in. All right, this next fundamental ratio that we're going to bring up here is current. It's going to be our return on equity. We're going to do ROE. Again, we're going to put it on the current year. You can change that if you want. We're going to use historical annual versus, say, quarterly. And we're going to say we want to see companies that have at least an 8% return on equity threshold. Now, if you're somebody that uses the fundamentals quite a bit, and you have a different number that you feel comfortable looking for in the return on equity, swap it out. Put in whatever your number is there. And we really are not going to put on a maximum number here, so it throws in a number that we can use. All right. The last thing here is the volume. Okay, we want to see stocks that have some minimum trading volume that we're comfortable with. Now, to bring that on, we're going to add to our filter here again. And this time we're going to do a study filter. Now, the study filter does not work in paper money, okay? Study filter does not work in paper money. So for this particular scan, you would need to run it on your live account, get the results back, and then share that watch list with yourself so you can bring it in when you go back over to your live side of things, or when you go back to your paper side of things. If you're on a Windows machine, you can have open the live side Thinkorswim, and you could also have the paper money Thinkorswim. You could have both of those open at the same time, so that when you get the results of this scan, you want to bring it over to your paper side of things, then you can do so. All right, the study filter that we're going to look for here is going to be based on volume, and we're going to do average volume, not just today's volume. So it brings in 50-day simple moving average, or a 50-day, what has the volume been? We're going to go a little bit shorter term than that. We're going to go 30 periods, which is about 6 weeks, okay? And then the default volume that it puts in here is 1 million. If you're comfortable with 1 million, do it, okay? If you want it to be larger than that, and for some options type scans, when we want to use those for optionable stocks, we typically do want it to be a little bit higher. So some people will start with 1 million. Some people might even start with 2 million there. Okay. But in this case, we'll go ahead, we'll leave it at 1 million here. And then if you like this scan and you wanted to save it, come up here to the stack menu to the right of the flame index, which that's our sizzle index. And let me maybe get rid of that square now. And on here, you would just say save scan query and you'd give it a unique name. Okay. I don't have this one saved yet. I'm going to call it, though, I'm going to call it cash rich stocks. And I'm going to say cash rich because they have assets that could easily pay down their current liabilities with that current ratio. Okay. And they're companies that hopefully are a little bit profitable. Go ahead and save this. And then once you save it, when you bring up your different watch lists, you're going to see a dynamic watch list there for that scan. And you could just go ahead and run it that way. Okay, what am I talking about here? Let me go ahead and open up my left side here. And let's say on the watch list, I wanted to find this cash rich companies. Looks like I'm going to have to go, or cash rich stocks, I think is what I called this one. I think my previous one, I said cash rich profitable companies. I just called this one stocks. And you see that little purple arrow there? That lets you know it's a dynamic watch list. And anytime you want to run the scan and bring back the results, you would just highlight there and it'll bring back results. I'm going to come down here on the bottom and I'm going to say 200 is quite a bit, but we'll go with 200 stocks. And we're going to go ahead and hit scan here. And I'm going to collapse that back down so we can see some of the kind of stocks that are coming in here. Let's go ahead and do a sorting here. One thing that I put in my columns down here, I've changed them quite a bit, okay? And one of the things that I just recently added was this one here called a 1 month % change. So we can see, okay, of the companies that meet this criteria, which ones have a higher % return in the last year. And so how did I do that? I clicked on this gear and I hit customize and I came into my columns and I picked a calculation that I have here called 1 month % change. I'm just going to have it sort it by that. Okay, brought it over. I said, okay. And then I moved it so it was sitting here. And I'm just going to select on it here. I'm going to select on it twice so that I see the higher performance ones on the top part of it. Now, some of these stocks might be ones that you recognize the symbols, and some of them might not be. We've got Flex, Credo, ALAB is something laboratories. I've seen it quite a bit. Marvell, we have JBL, Amazon, Google, both Googles here. So you're going to get a variety of maybe some you're familiar with and maybe some you're not as familiar with, but they all meet this criteria up here at the top. Okay, so that's going to be the first scan for those of you that are somewhat fundamentally oriented that are looking for cash-rich companies that are very liquid, could pay off their current assets. All right. Next up, we're going to have something for those of you that might be a little bit more technically oriented. And I actually have quite a few technical scans that I share with you. One of them I'm going to share with you is one that I reference a lot. And it's called my Early Morning Movers Bullish Scan. And it is looking for certain criteria that is more technically oriented. We won't use a current ratio or return on equity or a PE ratio in it, but we will be looking for some upward trending stocks. Okay, so we're going to start over here again. I'm going to hit reset. We're going to build this from scratch. All right. First thing we're going to put on here is the price again. So we're going to put in, I like using last. If you wanted bid price or ask price or high or low, you could use whatever you want there. And again, I'm going to use a minimum on this one. Actually, let's go $10. Sometimes we can see some little bit lower price stocks, but we want to kind of hit that minimum of $10. Next up, we're going to look for some movement today. All right. So I'm going to say some positive bullish movement today. Now, if we are having kind of a bullish type market, the number I might use here, oh, actually, that's not the right one. I want to be down here on the percent change. There we go. We are going to say we want a minimum of, and this number I vary a little bit. Okay, if we were in a pretty bullish market, I'll maybe say, let's look for things that are up 2.5%. The market maybe isn't quite as bullish, or I'm not getting back as many results as I want, I might change that minimum to 1.5%. Okay, and then we'll let it go up as high as it wants to go up. Now we are going to get rid of this stock volume filter because we're not going to use it. And now we're going to put on free study filters. Again, study doesn't work in your live side. You've got to do this on your paper money side. My little hybrid demo account will allow it, even though it's a paper money account. And on here, under the studies, we're going to grab the study filter 3 times. And then we're going to kind of put in some technical information here. Now, the first thing we're going to work with is volume. Okay, we're going to work with average volume instead of today's volume. So again, study, I'm going to choose volume, I'm going to choose average volume, and I am going to put it back for, say, the last 30 days, which would be about 6 weeks. And on this one, you know, I've done a number of different things. We're going to start this one at 500,000. We won't go all, we'll do 500,000 instead of that full million. Okay. Those of you that are maybe trading some stocks and would use this for the purpose of trading stocks, you know, you might even be more comfortable going a little bit lower than that. If you wanted to go, say, 250,000, you could do that. Now, this next little bit is about trend. And it's one of the most, one of the things that I have found that finds trend the most consistently for us, I should say. All right, so this first indicator, we are going to be choosing a price change. So we'll go into price performance here. We're going to come down to price change. We're going to do that 2 times. So again, come down to, where did he go? Price performance, price change. Now here we're going to say, we're going to look for something that has maybe an intermediate trend as well as a short-term trend, both being bullish. So here we're going to look for, on the price, that the close is at least, in terms of the price change, the closing price, and this is kind of aggressive here, okay? I'm going to put in 25%. When we're in conditions that maybe aren't super bullish, I may need to go down to 20. Sometimes I've gone down to 15. And we're going to look for that over the last, what's been about a quarter's worth of data. So we're going to come in here and we're just going to plug in 64. 64 trading bars is about a quarter's worth of information. And then, so that will be for our intermediate trend. And then our short-term trend, we're going to make it a little bit lower here. We're just going to go 5%. And we're going to do that in the last 21 bars. Okay. The last 21 bars means basically a month. So these stocks have to be currently up 5% in the last month, and they have to be up at least 25% in the last quarter. So we're not just looking for something that's been downward trending and maybe having a turnaround. We're looking for something that has some steady trends. All right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit scan, and then I'm going to show you some variations. So we'll go ahead, we'll hit scan. I just left 50 up here. And it looks like we could possibly have as many as 124 stocks come back on that. Now, this is the scan that I call my early morning movers bullish scan. And I will tweet about it or post about it on my X account many mornings. Not every single morning, but many mornings. I'll run this after the market's been open for maybe about 15 minutes, run it and see what kind of stocks we're getting here. All right. Now, variations of this. What if you were somebody that said, you know, I'd kind of like these stocks to be S&P 500 stocks. Maybe you're not comfortable with, say, lower cap stocks. Well, what we would do here would leave it to scan in all stocks, but then this we would intersect with. I'm going to come down to a public watch list, and I'm going to pick the S&P 500. Okay, think that might change the scan results? Yeah, we're not going to get back 124 anymore, but let's see how many we do get back. Instead of 124, whoa, we're down to 20. So there's only 20 stocks on the S&P 500 that have short-term and intermediate-term bullish trends that are also up 2.5% today. Okay, so that took it from a huge selection to a much smaller selection there, choosing the S&P 500. Now, these variables are not cut in stone. I would encourage you to experiment with them, see what seems to work good for you, okay? One other variation you might consider doing. This variation would be maybe for option traders. And so option traders might look for something to intersect this with. And instead of intersecting with the S&P 500, I'm going to pick a different public watch list. And I'm going to choose here something some of you are familiar with. It's called penny increment options, which means options that have trades that are placed not necessarily 10 cents at a time or 20 cents at a time, but maybe 6 cents. Okay, so maybe it's $1.06 by $1.07. Okay, something like that, where the increments are just very small. Okay, you could substitute that there if you wanted. If you put both of those on there, which you could do, it'll be a really small list. But in this case, there's 14 that meet the criteria. And as you look down here, yeah, you probably recognize AMD and HUT and LRCX and so forth, Intel, Qualcomm, Riot, Texas Instruments, Roku, Caterpillar. All right. They're typically going to be bigger known names that trade at higher volumes. All right. So we've got a scan for the fundamental, looking for rich companies, so to speak. We've got a variation here on our early morning movers bullish. Well, what if it's a bearish market? Would it be helpful to have a search for the bearish side of things? The answer is absolutely, it is. We're going to take this scan, we're going to leave it like it is, with the exception that I'm just going to clear that filter here. And we're going to put in a couple of criteria that might be better suited for bearish. And this is what I call my early morning movers, bearish short-term movers. Okay, early morning movers, bearish short-term. All right, here we're going to put, instead of $10 on the stock price, we're going to change that to 40. One thing I did not repeat here is if you did want to save that scan, say you build it, you want to save it, make sure to go come up here and hit Save Scan Query, give it a name you're comfortable with, that you'll recognize what it really represents. Don't call it Connie Scan, because Connie has lots and lots of scans. Okay, you won't know which of my scans it is. All right, so looking on the bearish side of things, we're going to look for a little bit higher price. I'm going to put in 40 here. Your threshold might be a little bit different. Your threshold might be, maybe you want it to be $60 or $100. Whatever you choose is just fine with me. All right. Next, we're going to look for a percent change. And what we're going to look for, and the numbers need to go in this order. Percent change down, we're basically going to say minus 10%. If you like a higher, you change it, okay? And then I'm going to put down here minus 1.5%. So these are stocks that today are down between 1.5% to 10%, okay? Again, you can play with those parameters, make it what is useful to you. We're still going to look for some decent average volume of 500,000. However, we've got to change the trend here. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. On this one, we're going to say we'll still keep this at kind of a 3/4. Actually, I'm going to change the time frame on this a little bit. Let's do this one down 10% in the last 30 bars. How long is 30 bars? About 6 weeks, right? And we don't want it to be greater. We want it to be less than it was 30 days ago, at least 10% less. And on the short-term one here, we're going to leave it there at 21 days, but we're going to put that we want it to be 5% less a month ago. Okay, so we're looking for short-term down at least 5%, and then over 6 weeks down at least 10%. So hopefully we're finding things that are still trending that direction versus say something that's dropped, found support and started running back up. We wouldn't necessarily be interested in that. Okay. Again, you can filter it up here with the other things like I showed you if you're interested. Let's just go ahead and hit scan, knowing we're not in a super bearish market, so I wouldn't expect a ton of stocks to come back here, but we found about 18 that met the bearish criteria. I'm going to say that's a pretty healthy amount for a market that has a lot of bullishness going on right now and a lot of higher highs being made. Seems like each day we're getting a brand new high in the SPX, brand new high in the NASDAQ, all-time highs. So that's what you could switch it up if you were looking to go on the bearish side of things. All right. Now I want to see if there's any questions about any of these scans. Let me go ahead. Let me do a little bit of sharing. Okay. On this one, let me share this scan. Share scan query. Remember, anytime we share something with you, a search, a list, a scan, remember, it's not guaranteed as to accuracy or timing. Okay. I'm going to call this for shorthand EMM bearish short term. So that's what I call it. Okay. I'm going to share that. I'll put that out for folks that are here in the live. If you are listening to this on a recording, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to just stick it in a text box here. And I'm just going to say EMM bearish. Okay. So those of you that are looking at this as the recording, go ahead and pause. Go ahead and all you need really is from that exclamation point on. It is cap sensitive, so it has to be exact. Where there's capital M and K and U, they've got to be caps. Okay. The bullish scan, which I kind of got rid of, let me go ahead and pull it up from a saved version. Okay, I pretty much taught you what I do from my saved version. And I have it called Early Morning Movers Bullish. Let's see, there could be some variation here. Let's see. I've got 15% here, got 5% here over the last 21 days. So that is pretty similar to what I taught you here. I think I've got 100,000, and I've got 1 million volume there. And I think in the one I showed you it was 500,000, right? So you can play around with that. Again, let me share this with you. Those of you that are live, this is going to go out in the chat. So the second one is the bullish scan. Okay. And those of you that are listening to the recording, let me pop this one in here as well so that you can see this is the bullish scan. Okay. I want to spend a little time on something that several of you might find this really helpful. And that is showing you some ways you can use a different search tool that's called SpreadHacker. So we've been spending all our time in StockHacker. And we're going to move over here to SpreadHacker. Depending on how much time we have left, there may be another scan that I can teach you that could be helpful to some of you, but I want to make sure I get some time on SpreadHacker here. Now, Spread Hacker, well, let me ask, how many of you are option traders in here today? How many of you trade options, have some different strategies you like to use? Go ahead and you can say not yet or no, whatever is the right answer for you. I'd just be interested in seeing that. Spread Hacker is going to allow us to basically say, I am looking for a certain type of spread. And we have several choices we can choose from here. We could say all of them, or if we're just looking for, say, maybe a calendar spread or diagonal spread, and you have some very specific criteria, it'll allow you to go ahead and put in that criteria and then go and look and see what it can find that meets those parameters. Okay, so a few of you are not option traders yet, that's okay. You'll want to know this, all right? And we have several of you that are trading options. Okay, even journey, even if you're not very well, when you're practicing and learning, that's absolutely great. So I did send out the bullish scan as well, Gina. That was the second link that I sent out, was the bullish one, the early morning movers bullish. Okay, the first one was the bearish, the second one was the bullish. Okay, I will also put these scans in the write-up, my post class comments. I'll put a link to each of these scans. Hopefully that will help you. Oh, Brent says I posted the same one twice. Oh, well, dang. Okay, let me fix that. Let's go ahead and let's just edit this. And let's do this. Let me just type BULLISH. Copy that, say okay. All right, thank you for calling me out on that so you could get the right link. All right, so bearish, bullish. Back to scan tab over here to Spread Hacker. Now, what I'm going to show you here is something that might be helpful for those of you that like to do credit spreads. That would mean a short put vertical or a short call vertical, okay? The market's been a little bit more on the bullish side of things than the bearish side, so we're going to be focusing on a bullish spread, although it could bring up, if it meets the criteria, it'll bring it up, but I expect all of these are going to be short put vertical scans that it finds for us. So on here, under the scan, we're going to start out and say we are looking for a vertical, and I'm telling you that we're sculpting this to meet the criteria that we like in credit spreads. It's the same, you're saying? Well, let me fix it. What is my problem here? Stock Hacker. This is the bullish one that's up. Share scan query. And I'm going to hit share again, and this is not isn't going to have the fancy name in it. Okay. But let's go ahead and get that. And maybe one of you can tell me, I'm thinking that I keep sending you the bearish one, where the second one should be the bullish one. Okay. If I go back to, oh, here, look at that. Duh. All right, there we go. For those of you on the recording now, yes, we do have different URLs there. Okay. In our Spread Hacker, there are certain conditions that some traders might like to see. Now, your conditions might be different than what I'm going to put in here. But I'm going to put in something that is pretty common when you're working with short verticals. Okay. Again, your parameters might be a little bit different. First of all, I'm going to start with $40 in the price tag. If you want to go lower than that, you go lower than that. Okay. So the underlying price is 40. And then we're actually going to fill out both of these parameters, probability of profit and our max profit. Now, when we talk about probability of profit, that's where we're saying something like we're looking for a high probability trade. And as part of that high probability trade, many people will consider going, say, a 60% probability or higher is higher probability to them. We are going to put a max in it. And some people will say, well, why even put a max in? And it's because I want it to really focus on some legitimate opportunities to look at, as opposed to a pie in the sky. It's really hard to do a high probability trade that has a percentage of 100%, keeping within a profit range that we're going to put in next. Okay, so I will just put here, okay, I'm looking for 60 to 85%. If it goes better than that, yippee. Okay, but I'll just kind of cap it there. And then max profit. When you're setting up a credit spread, you might have some rules that say, I want at least a blank return. I want at least a 25% return. I want at least a 30% return. I want at least whatever that number is to you. Okay. There may be some people that are like higher probability and are willing to maybe not have as much profit percentage. They might say, hey, I'm okay with the 25% because I like the probability here. Okay. So on here, we're going to go max profit of, we're going to go with 30%, anything that's over 30%. We're going to consider high probability, and we're going to cap this at 45. You don't have to cap it, okay? I'm going to, again, so that it is concentrating in some results that I consider kind of a sweet spot. All right, next up. This is kind of, we could run this down right now. In fact, I'll just go ahead and run it with 50 results, but we're going to modify this a little bit. Okay, now you can see some of the results coming out here. We've got different time frames: May 22nd, September 18th, June 5th, July 17th. Okay, so you're seeing all sorts of different expiration dates. You're seeing probability of profit here in that column. We said that kind of the top is going to be around that 85%. Here's the max percent profit. So I said go between 30 and 45, and this one's 37%. Okay. Now it's in a red background because why? Because it's a credit spread. And interestingly enough here, we have some calls and some puts. I knew we'd have a good number of puts, but we actually have an interesting number of calls on here as well. Now I'm going to do a little more fine tuning here. And we're going to put up one more filter here. And this filter is to help us maybe narrow down expiration dates. Some of you may have parameters where you say, well, I want at least 1% for every day that the spread has, meaning if it's 30 days till expiration, you want a 30% return. If it's 40 days to expiration, you want a 40% return. So this next parameter might help some of you that are kind of trying to whittle that down. We are going to put it here, days to expiration. All right. And we're going to be kind of fixated on it. Now I'm going to come over here to the trade tab for a minute. We're just going to use Apple here. Apple has a lot of weekly contracts because it has some that are Monday, Wednesday, Friday expiration, and not just the Fridays. So it has a lot in here. But suppose I said I'm really wanting to target, just say the June 18th. Well, it has 43 days before it expires. Okay, so I would come back into here and I would say days to expiration. And on this one, I'm going to do 42 to 44 days. Okay. What's right in the middle? That 43. Now, suppose that's what we're focusing on. Let's go ahead and hit scan. And you'll see as I scroll down here, yeah, it was able to just narrow in on the June 18th. Well, what if you have a shorter time frame than that? Okay. What if you are good to look at something between, say, May 15th, which has 9 days to expiration, and say June 5th, which has 30 days? Okay. Well, then let's go plug in there an 8 and a 31. Okay, so between 8 and 31, or whatever you're targeting, okay? This is going to mean there's going to be some weeklies in there as opposed to monthlies. And let's go ahead and scan again. And so what it's bringing up here for us when we look at the results is a spread that meets the criteria we put out there, okay? It's bringing back here, first of all, Corning, a 215, 217.50 call spread. The mark price here is 54 cents, which is about an 85% return. And its max profit potential is 32%. So that falls in between the 30 and the 45. Okay. You're going to notice, yeah, there are some different time frames here because we didn't just zero in on the June 18 ones. We said, okay, we're willing to look at some of these. And what you would do is you just go pull it up and look it up and see. Okay. You'd look and say, oh, GLW, let's go out there, look at the May 22nd. That was May 22nd. I can't remember what the strike prices were, but you'd come out here, look at the strike prices, see if they look liquid enough, see if they have enough to open interest. Now, a limitation when you're using a lot of weeklies is sometimes there's not as much open interest in those, which is why sometimes it could be favorable to trigger or just kind of focus in on something that has monthly expirations so that you know that there is a higher likelihood of having a higher open interest value there. Okay. T-Morning Rush says, is it possible to create a scan based on an option strategy? In Spread Hacker, this is where we kind of plug that idea in that we're looking for a vertical using a strategy, and you could use any of these others. Stock Hacker is a little bit more limited. We're just basically saying, hey, these are the kind of stocks we want to work with, as opposed to saying, I want to work with stocks that have great liquidity in the options. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit different type what you're looking for. And that's why I say most of you are going to find the most value probably out of that Stock Hacker. Okay. Let's see, can we add a constraint around the bid-ask prices to indicate liquidity? Eric, you'll have to play with that. I am not remembering something like that. These are the only parameters we have to work from on the Spread Hacker. All right. Now, little plug here. I hope you're following us and are a subscriber to our Trader Talks YouTube channel. If you are, it makes it so much easier for you to find our content, right? You can see our playlist. You can see what's coming up next. If I were to come over here to home, who is after me? Well, we're going to have trading index options with Ben Watson is up next. Okay, so hit that little blue subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. That will allow you to find our content so much more easily. Now, I appreciate your participation here today. Again, I'll save those scans out in the information that that I can put in on our post-production work. The Stock Hacker scans, you cannot save. There's no parameter for saving those, okay? So maybe take some screenshots or notes, whatever you want from this one, because we cannot save that one off, all right? Brent, thank you so much for your help here today. Appreciate it. And appreciate each of you being here today. Follow Brent and I on X. Brent Moore CS, Connie Hill CS. This is helpful to you today. Hit the like button on the way out. If you want to explore a little bit with those scans, I'm going to encourage you to do so. And just kind of find what looks and feels good to you for based on what you like to look for. All right. But hopefully that was a scan for everybody today. All right. We will see you right at the top of the hour with index options and Ben Watson. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.